Joy Reid is offering up some joyous, unsolicited advice to the president. Stripping away naturalization could backfire. Speaking with Representative Pramila Jayapal on Thursday, Reid suggested that Melania Trump could face deportation in the future because of her husband's denaturalization threats. Let's watch.
If we ever get a Democratic president, they could say, I don't like Melania Trump. She wasn't born here. She was born in Slovenia. She is a naturalized citizen. She's out of here. And by the way, Ivana Trump, the late Ivana Trump, who's buried in the golf course in New Jersey in Donald Trump's golf club, she wasn't an American citizen. And 3 of her children are Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. And maybe the next Democratic president says, you know what? I don't like the Trumps. And so we're going to denaturalize all of the Trump children whose mother was a foreigner at the time.
When asked if Congress realizes the full downside of the denaturalization idea, this was Jayapal's take.
That's exactly right. And I think that, you're asking for a level of logic from these Republican Congress members that they just don't have. It's turned into a cult party.
During a visit last week to so-called Alligator Alcatraz, Trump did indeed float the idea of deporting naturalized citizens who have committed serious crimes.
Yeah, I guess it's a fine thought experiment, and I myself use slippery slope arguments all the time, so I guess I won't really fault Joy Reid for going there. I guess what I would have liked to hear from Representative Jayapal was, well, we would never do that because we don't believe in deporting people because we don't like them, and I cannot conceive of a future Democratic Party that would do that.
Which
and instead she was like, yeah, what if we did that? I don't know. It's kind of a weird response. I mean, that would be bad. I mean, that would be a serious escalation. Trump. Now, I obviously don't agree that we should kick. I mean, people who commit violent crimes should be imprisoned. If they are not citizens and if they're here illegally, they can be imprisoned and then deported or deported to a prison or whatever is the proper procedure. That's fine. People who are American citizens and commit serious crimes, that is just as serious. And I'm occasionally this focus on the immigration status is getting around our crime problem. We have a crime problem, a violent crime problem in many American cities. Some of these crimes are being committed by illegal immigrants, but not all of them. And I don't care whether it's an illegal immigrant or a lawful immigrant or a citizen or somebody whose ancestors came over on the Mayflower. I want violent criminals put away to keep our cities safe. We can't. I don't think we can denaturalize. I am not up to date on this aspect of the law, but that is the serious solution. Not trying to deport them. I think so. I don't know why we need to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. So denaturalization was something that was almost unheard of, I think, up until very recently.
That's for someone who becomes a citizen and then we're stripping away their citizenship. I mean, possibly that could be done in some of the cases if people commit very serious violent crimes who came here and got citizenship, and maybe that could be taken away. I guess I'm not necessarily wholly opposed to that, but
I think previously, whenever the suggestion was made at all, which was very, very seldom, the idea was if someone was a naturalized citizen and then committed actual treachery, so somebody comes from the old Soviet Union, becomes a naturalized US citizen, and then turns out to be a Soviet spy, then you take the citizenship away.
But more importantly, you imprison them.
Right.
We would not send them back to the Soviet Union in this case. We would not send them back to China. We would imprison them.
Right. No.
Just getting the people out of the country is not necessily and always the point.
No, and this denaturalization argument...
We could take away their right to vote, I guess, is the...
Yeah, well, as
fine.
As happens with people who are born here and are
incarcerated anyway.
Felonies and so forth. The danger, I think, is that the denaturalization element seems to be part of this broader, very, very hard line on immigration. And the idea of the government using immigration policy to crack down on people with whom they disagree in various ways. Now, Congressman Andy Ogles, who I find a rather crank-like figure, but in any event, he was sort of suggesting that it could be done in the case of Zoran Mamdani. And his justifications for that were incredibly dubious, talking about an old rap lyric when Mamdani was a rapper, which was not expressing support for a terrorist group. It was citing, without getting too deep into the weeds, a very contentious case in New York where people were convicted of contributing to a charity which they said was a legit charity and which authorities say was connected with Hamas. The other thing that Ogles cited was the refusal of Mamdani to condemn the phrase globalize the Intifada. Not, I should stress, using that phrase, but refusing to condemn it. So the idea that someone should face deportation when in the case of Mamdani they are a US citizen, that seems a ludicrous and dangerous suggestion to me.
Yes.
And therefore I worry about the mainstreaming of this denaturalization idea.
Yeah, I've said it a million times. People should not face deportation for speech. We draw a ironclad difference in our post-Enlightenment tradition between words and actions. Words are protected by our First Amendment. The government cannot go after you for just expression, even if it's vile expression, even if it's bad. We allow a great range of discussion because we think that's the best way to run our society, is to allow that. Deeds are different, so if you commit crimes, violent crimes in particular, maybe certainly some kind of punishment can follow. Maybe it could have to do with citizenship. That's fine, but certainly I would agree to not extend it for words. The only other thing I want to say on this subject is in terms of the going after the Trump family. I get it, and you'll probably think this is ridiculous, but it is the view of millions of conservatives that the going after the Trump family thing has already happened, right? That Trump has been pursued legally in a variety of municipalities for a variety of things.
Mostly some of which crimes, I would say.
Some of which I think are the argument that their crimes is stronger. Some of which are weaker. But this idea that in some far-flung universe, Democrats, after Trump's actions, would have the bright idea to pursue legal charges against Trump is something, I'm just saying, many Republicans will find ridiculous. They'll say that already happened. So there's the escalation you have in mind has already occurred, and now it's our turn to escalate things, which I think is a bad tendency. But
yeah, I mean, I think there was very abundant evidence, particularly in the Mar-a-Lago case and in the January the 6th cases, that Donald Trump broke the law, and he got away with it, which I think is a very sad day for America that he did get away with it. And I think that those cases were rightfully brought about very obvious illegal action of which there was compelling and significant evidence. We have a lot more topics to talk about on Rising right after this. Stay with us.